Hello everyone and welcome to our very first episode of Captain Tsubasa's Soccer League here on Mr. Retractive. Today we're going to be showing you guys how the whole scoring system works, as well as of course introducing the schedules for this series. I am going to warn you, sometimes the footage may accidentally skip sometimes it may skip once in a while a replay. If that does happen, it could be a glitch on my game's end, and if so, I do apologize in advance, which is why we'll be showing off the replays right after the match is officially over. That way, you guys get a chance to see some awesome highlights. So, here we go with our schedule for today. So, the scoring system is pretty much simple. It's based on, of course, the point system right here. It's actually pretty interesting. It mainly calculates its points with from match points, wins, draws, losses, goals for, goals against, goals defended, that sort of thing. And as you can see, all 16 teams are here and accounted for. We got Italy, we got Brazil, Japan, Germany, France, Netherlands, England, Senegal, Argentina, Uruguay, America, North America, Europe, Africa, South America, and Asia. And all of these teams will be going head-to-head against each other in matchups throughout the entire series. So, as you can see here, from right above me on the screen, we got, of course, our Week 1, or in this case, our Match 1, or as this game calls it, Season 1 of our league. We got, of course, England versus Senegal, Asia versus South America, Netherlands versus France, Brazil versus Italy, Germany versus Japan, Uruguay versus Argentina, Africa versus Europe, and USA versus North America. We, of course, got Season 2 with Brazil versus Germany, Europe versus South America, Italy versus Japan, North America versus Uruguay, England versus France, USA versus Argentina, Senegal versus Netherlands, and Asia versus Africa. For Season 3, we got the Netherlands versus England. We got Africa versus South America. We got Argentina versus North America. We got France versus Senegal, Brazil versus Japan, USA versus Uruguay, Asia versus Europe, and Germany versus Italy. For Season 4, we got Uruguay versus Africa, Senegal versus Germany, Asia versus North America. We got Brazil versus Netherlands, France versus Italy, England versus Japan, South America versus USA, and Europe versus Argentina. For Season 5, we got Europe versus Uruguay. We got Senegal versus Japan. We got Germany versus England. Asia versus USA. Africa versus Argentina. France versus Brazil. South America versus North America. And Netherlands versus Italy. We also have Season 6, where we got Asia versus Uruguay. Argentina versus South America. Japan versus France, Germany versus Netherlands, England versus Italy, Senegal versus Brazil, USA versus Europe, and Africa versus North America. For Season 7, we got England versus Brazil, Argentina versus Asia, we got Netherlands versus Japan, we got USA versus Africa, we got Europe versus North America, we got France versus Germany, we got Senegal versus Italy, and we got South America versus Uruguay. For Season 8, we got Brazil versus Uruguay, Italy versus Argentina, Europe versus France, USA versus Japan, Germany versus North America, Netherlands versus Africa, England versus South America, and finally Asia versus Senegal. For Season 9, we got Africa versus France, Brazil versus Argentina, Asia versus England, North America versus Japan, Uruguay versus Italy, Netherlands versus Europe, South America versus Senegal, and USA versus Germany. For Season 10, we got Argentina versus Japan, South America versus France, Asia versus the Netherlands, Germany versus Uruguay, Africa versus Senegal, USA versus Italy, England versus Europe, and Brazil versus North America. For Season 11, we got Japan versus Uruguay, Italy versus North America, Netherlands versus South America, Brazil versus USA, Senegal versus Europe, England versus Africa, France versus Asia, and Germany versus Argentina. For Season 12, we got Japan versus South America, Italy versus Europe, Argentina versus France, USA versus England, Africa versus Brazil, Germany versus Asia, Senegal versus North America, and the Netherlands versus Uruguay. For Season 13, we got Senegal versus USA, Europe versus Brazil, North America versus England, Italy versus Africa, France versus Uruguay, South America versus Germany, Netherlands versus Argentina, and finally Japan versus Asia. For Season 14, we got Italy versus South America, Japan versus Europe, Uruguay versus Senegal, North America versus Netherlands, Argentina versus England, Africa versus Germany, Brazil versus Asia, and France versus USA. And finally, for the 15th season, we got USA versus Netherlands, Italy versus Asia, Argentina versus Senegal, Germany versus Europe, South America versus Brazil, Uruguay versus England, Africa versus Japan, and France versus North America. After all of these matches have concluded, we'll be tallying up the score, and only the top 8 teams will be making it all the way to the tournament. If any custom teams happen to reach the bottom 8 of this list, basically 9 through 16, they'll get a chance to spin the wheel of rosters, in this case, the draft wheels. There, they'll have a chance to replace any players they happen to have a very bad situation with. So they'll have a chance to gain new players as the series goes on. So, depending on how they perform, there's still going to be something in it for everyone. Finally, it'll be then the top 8 teams going against each other. One match between them both. There is no draws, and it's going to go to a penalty kickoff showdown if it comes to it. So that means there's also going to be overtime. And of course, whoever wins will become that year's champion. I'm very excited to get this series started. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And I can't wait to see what we have in store for this brand new series. So until then, if you guys like what we do, please follow us on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as well as Kick. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mr. Retroactive. This show has been, well, in a way, 500 subscribers in the making. And you guys made it happen. And I can't wait to see how this series goes. If you guys want more details on how this series goes, check out the other 2 trailers on how all of that will soon proceed. This is the main schedule that you guys will be seeing throughout this entire experience. And yes, I'll even be wearing my Mr. Retroactive shirt, as you see right here, my work shirt, to represent that I'm taking this series very seriously. As well as, of course, showing that I'll be using this whenever I do the halftime reports. Still, if you guys want to support the channel in any way possible, donating through PayPal or subscribing to our Patreon would absolutely help us out immensely. And again, thank you guys for helping us get past 500 subscribers. You guys made all of this possible. I've been working really hard on making sure that this series is the best I can make it for you guys. And I can't wait for you guys to check out our first match of the series, which is, of course, England versus Senegal. So until then, my friends, I hope you all have an amazing day. I'll see you all next time. This is going to be Mr. Retroactive signing out for now. Until the next one. Have a great day, everyone. Next time on our Captain Tsubasa League, it is England versus Senegal for our very first match. So until then, see you soon, everyone!